Hi, this is Mrs McTaggart. In today's video we're looking at how to find the volume of a cuboid. So before we get started, well, what is a cuboid? You should recognise a cuboid as being just a 3D box. It's a box which is like a 3D rectangle. A cube is also part of the cuboid family. It's just special because all its sides have the exact same length. Then what is volume? And this is, well, volume is the amount of space inside a shape. We measure area in squares and we measure volume in 3D cubes. So if I say the volume of a room, it's how many little cubes would fill the room if you were to stack them all out. It's also, we talk about volume a lot in terms of milliliters as well. So it's the amount of space inside a solid object. So here is a little image with some cubes. It's how I always introduce it, and I get pupils to count up the cubes, which sometimes leads to a bit of clarity because we count the sides and stuff instead of how much each little cube is. So imagine you were building this out of Lego blocks. How many cubes have I've got? And most pupils would look at this and go, right, okay, I can see 9 on the top and there's 2 rows of 9. So it's made up of 18 little cubes. So that means the volume of this is 18 cubic centimetres. Now, to give you an idea of how small 1 cubic centimetre is when maybe you learned to count at school, you might have used the blue or the wooden cubes that then became strips of 10, became panels of 100, and then a massive cube of 1,000. Well, one of those tiny little cubes is 1 centimetre cubed. So one tiny little cube is 1 centimetre cubed. Okay, and in terms of liquid and stuff, maybe remember you used to have a Calpol syringe maybe when you were younger. That's equivalent to 5 cubic centimetres. That would be 5 of those little cubes, or 5 millilitres in water. So a centimetre cubed is also the same as a millilitre. That doesn't come into this video, but it is interesting to know. So let's have a look at this cube again. So I talked about counting that there was 9 on the top. That's the wrong colour pen to use. I counted that there was 9 on this top row, and then there was 2 rows, so I did 9 times 2. You might look at it a different way, and you might look at this and go, well, I can see 6 on the side, and then there's 3 columns of 6. 3 6s are also 18. You might look at that the same and say, oh, I can see 6 on the front, and there's 3 rows of 6 going back. So what we were essentially doing is we were doing some combination of, you probably did 3 times 3 to get the top one, you did the length times the breadth, and then you doubled that to get the height. So what we're really doing is we're multiplying these 3 numbers together. So to create a formula for that, we put one of these and we call it length, breadth and height. Doesn't matter which order you do it in. I generally work left to right and go length, breadth, height. What the interesting bit in this is you have to find an order that makes it accessible to do without a calculator sometimes. So is V equals LBH sometimes written like this without the times signs in instead. And it's really good to remember this formula. So here is a die. I'm not getting into the argument. A singular one is a die to make a dice, like mouse and mice. So here is a regular die. I use this one because everyone recognises it and they know that it is basically a cube. So it means all the sides on this are 4. So the volume of this would be LBH, length times breadth times height. Let's me check, I don't like the red pen. So length times breadth times height. So I'm going to do 4 times 4 times 4. Well, I know 4 times 4 is 16, so I've still to do 4 times 16, and then that would be 64. Little trick to multiply by 4, double it and double it again. So that gives us 64, and this is 64 little cubic centimetres. So that would be 64 of these tiny little cubes to make up that die. It's rather a big die actually, not the size of one you would find in a board game. Let's look at question 2. We've got a tissue box. So again, we're going to start with the formula V equals LBH. And we're just going to write down the numbers, 10 times 6 times 5. Now my top tip is you've got a times by 10 anywhere, leave that till the end. Go do 6 times 5 is 30, and then you've just got 10 times 30, which is adding on a 0, making it 300 cubic centimetres. Let's have a look at my third example. Okay, we've got a box of cereals, slightly bigger numbers. Still, I'm not using a calculator yet, so V equals LBH. Remember I said we can do any order, so we're going to do 8 times 20 times 30. Now the trick in this one is we're going to multiply all these numbers. 8 times 2 times 3. I actually think this is easier to go backwards and do 3 times 2 times 8. Or 3 times 8 times 2. So let's have a look. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. And then I ignored 2 zeros, so I'm going to put those 2 zeros back on. So that is 4,800 cubic centimetres. I don't think my dimensions for that box are all that accurate, because that's quite a lot for a box of cereal. So after this, what comes next? Well, more challenging questions will be working backwards to find maybe a missing length in the box. So let's have a look at one of those. So in this question, we're actually told the volume of the cuboid and we have to work out what the breadth is. So we know some of the dimensions. So what I'm going to do is just rearrange the formula, and I'm going to write it as L times breadth times height. So L times B times H equals my volume this time. So I don't know my length, what's my breadth I've left, so I'm just going to leave that as B. So B times 3 times 5 equals 60. Well, I know 3 times 5 is 15, so I've got B times 15 equals 60. And the opposite of timesing by 15 is dividing by 15, so 60 divided by 15 is 4 centimetres. You should know that hopefully from your clock. 15, 30, 45, 60. So the breadth is 4 centimetres. A lot of pupils can just look at this and tell me the answer, but struggle on how to lay out the working. Let's look at this one. This time my volume's 105. So I know that I did length times breadth times height to get my volume. So I did 3 times 7 times my height this time to get 105. 3 times 7 is 21. So I did 21 times my height to get 105. So you're going to do 105 divided by 21. Now hopefully you could spot that. Counting up in 21s, I know 5 21s make 100. So 105 divided by 21 is 5. So my height is 5 centimetres. We could always go to the side and do a wee bit of simplification with fractions and do 105 over 21, maybe spot a 3 times table there, which gives us 35 over 7, which gives us 5. Different ways of doing it, but a lot of people will do it just by counting up. So that's me covered volume of a cuboid. I hope this has helped. Thanks for watching.